Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Larry Kibbe. I'm chairman of the Skagit Business Alliance and a member of the O'Connor Chamber Board of Directors. I'll be the moderator for this evening's forum. I'd like to express our appreciation for those of you coming out to be with us tonight, Seahawks Green Bay notwithstanding. The rules are that you have to turn off all of your phones, and there's no fair checking scores until after we're done. We are really beholden to the candidates in the 1st and 2nd congressional districts for being with us this evening to answer our questions. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with the host organization, the Skagit Business Alliance brings together all of the chambers of commerce throughout Skagit County, as well as a diverse group of business interests, including the Skagit Island County Builders Association, the North Puget Sound Association of Builders. All in all, SBA members represent some 2,600 business members and their employees. Our purpose is to advocate on behalf of our members on business-related issues at the local, state, and federal levels. Seated next to me is Matt Miller. Matt is on the Anacortes Chamber, and next to him, Corey Patel from the Mount Vernon Chamber Board of Directors. These two gentlemen are going to be assisting me as questions come from the audience. If we don't already have them, they will be taking them, getting them to me, and we will go from there. As far as the forum structure is concerned, if you have questions as we go on from the audience, we have volunteers. Volunteers, where I raise your hand back there, and raise your hand if you have a need to put a question together. Write it down. Raise your hand again. They will bring them up to Matt and Corey, and we will get those questions into the mix. Hopefully, we'll be able to get through all the questions, but we may run out of time. Also, the candidates, as you see, are seated up here at the council rostrum. They include, from the 1st District, Susan Delvetti, John Koster. From the 2nd District, incumbent Congressman Rick Larson. Each candidate will have 4 minutes to provide an opening statement. And as I said, candidates are seated in alphabetical order, so we'll start the statements in that order. When we get to the questions, we're going to rotate questions between candidates so they all have an opportunity to at least be the first to answer a question, and we'll go in the order as we get there. And then each candidate will have 2 minutes for closing statements, and we will conclude. So to get things rolling, let's start with the opening statements, and I'm going to ask on the immediate left, Susan Delvetti.
Thank you, and thanks everyone for being here. I really appreciate it, and just your involvement and learning more about all the candidates and where we stand and being involved in this process as we head towards the November 6th election. This is a very critical election, and it's important that we get everyone engaged. I am Susan Delvetti. I'm running for Congress in the 1st Congressional District, which is a new, very different looking district. I'm sure all of you know, going from Eastern King County up to the Canadian border. I'm running for Congress because I believe very strongly that we need to stand up for working families and the middle class. This is a very difficult time for families, and I understand that. It's very personal for me that we get Congress moving and help families get on track. When I was young, my dad lost his job. He was an airline pilot, and my family moved all over the country as my parents looked for work. And it was a very tough time, and we went through many struggles, but we also had opportunities as well. We were able to get by between jobs with unemployment benefits. We always had access to health care, and I was able to go to college and get a great education because of student loans and financial aid and work study programs. And that great education and a lot of hard work allowed me to have a successful career as a businesswoman and entrepreneur and be able to take care of my family. You know, after I graduated from college, got my first job, my parents moved in with me because they didn't have another place to go. And so I understand how important a job is, not only for financial stability, but also it's about pride and dignity. And this is so important to our communities that we make sure we help folks get back to work. But it's hard right now. I don't know if I could tell the same story that I just did again today if I were growing up right now, because right now we have a government that's been working against middle-class families and against working families, and that needs to change. We need to build a foundation for economic growth. It's incredibly important that we put things back together again. And that's a combination of a few things. It's about investing where we get a great return and helps build our economy, investing in our infrastructure, because it's so much more important that we invest in fixing a road today than letting it fall apart and spend much, much more money trying to fix a broken road when we could have filled the pothole when we first discovered it. It's important that we have an incredible education system so that not only our kids all have access to opportunity, but that people across our region have access to the jobs that our companies need. And that goes everywhere from technology and aerospace and agriculture, all the way through to technical workers and the community college folks that are out there doing advanced manufacturing and learning the trades that are going to be important for this economy and this region. We have to make sure that we invest in those because things fall apart much more quickly than we can put them back together, and that's a smart financial decision. But we also need to make sure that we keep our promises that we've made to Americans. We need to protect Social Security and Medicare and make sure our seniors have access to the benefits that they deserve, that they've paid into. And we need to get off of this fiscal cliff that we keep setting up for ourselves. We need a smart budget and fiscal policy so that we are responsible again. Many businesses that I talked to, and I toured this state talking to small businesses when I was director of Department of Revenue, they want stability. They want to know where we're headed. And right now, Congress is not working for us. It's not making decisions. It can't pass a budget for more than 90 days. And now we have a huge deadlock that is going to have to be decided in a lame-duck Congress. And that's not where we need to be. So I'm running for Congress because I have the experience to help get us back on the right track. And I really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Ready to go, right?
Go.
Hi, my name is John Koster.
I want to thank you all for coming to this evening. It's very important that people stay engaged in this process. We are, without question, facing one of the most important election cycles of this nation's history and going back very, very many years. I was born and raised in Arlington. I ran my own business there for almost 25 years. My wife and I met when we were 14. I was married when I was 4 days after my 19th birthday. We have 4 children, and now 9 grandchildren. I believe soon we'll have 10. My son is a foster parent, and I think that they will be in the process of adopting that little girl. I knew that was going to happen when they did that. But my grandkids are the joy of our lives, are my wife and I, and they are very much a part of the reason that I do what I do. I want a future for our kids and our grandkids, and our country, quite frankly, is at a turning point. We're in trouble. We're facing what some call financial ruin. But I think I had the business experience. I served 3 terms in the Washington State Legislature. During that time, we did healthcare reform, welfare reform, we did regulatory reform, and I think it's important to note that while we did that and we had a strong Republican House, we also had a Democrat Senate and a Democrat governor, but we still got those necessary reforms accomplished, and they were good for the state. Our campaign is focused on jobs and the economy. We have to get jobs created. We have to get this economy back on track. And I think that's only going to happen. Well, that's only going to happen when you have investment from the private sector. And right now, I think private sector is sitting on the sidelines because there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty out there. And I think that uncertainty has been created by many of the policies that we are looking at today. We need to modify our tax code. We need to do comprehensive tax reform. Well, what does that look like? Something that's simpler and fairer, something that lowers corporate tax rates, something that eliminates those corporate loopholes, those tax loopholes that, quite frankly, are causing a lot of our corporations to take jobs overseas. They think, I said this before, we need to eliminate the death tax as well. We also have to get our arms around the regulatory agencies. I hear probably more about the regulatory agencies than I hear about taxes as I'm out talking to businesses. You know, I work in local government, and I gotta tell you, local government is where the rubber meets the road. Commissioner Ron Wiesen is here, he can tell you that. We get to implement every great and noble idea by every congressman and every state legislator that has great ideas, and it all runs downhill to local government. We have to work with the citizens, or we are required to work with the citizens to try to figure out how to make that work. I think that's an important experience when you look at good ideas and then what comes out of those good ideas in terms of unintended consequences to local government and, quite frankly, businesses and individual citizens out there. We need an energy policy to get this country back on track. I firmly believe that we will not see the economic recovery we need to see in this country until we are utilizing the natural resources that are so abundantly ours. And quite frankly, I think one of the biggest fibs out there is this idea that we can't use our natural resources and have a clean environment too. We can do that. We have the technology to do that. Again, I'm running for Congress because I think we need to elect people who can make decisions, who can work with the other side of the aisle, who can get things done, who can move this country forward. I have the business experience and the experience in state and local government.
Thank you. Going forward, ladies and gentlemen, going forward, if you would, so we can get the flow moving along here, if you can hold your applause until we get done with the forum, I truly appreciate it. Okay, next.
I don't appreciate that, but I'm Rick Larson, congressman from the 2nd District. I'm running for re-election, and I'd very much like the support in this fall's election. I want to start where I usually start, and that's with my beginning. I was born and raised in Arlington. I'm one of 8 kids. My dad was a long-time lineman and foreman for the Snohomish County PUD. And in fact, if you turn the lights on in Snohomish County, or if you have electric baseboard heat, it's probably because of the work of my dad and a lot of the men and women who worked with him at the PUD and as a member of IBW 77 did. Something as basic as heat and light is my dad's legacy. Heat and light for people who are living in their homes. That's a pretty important legacy. My mom has a different legacy. As I said, I'm one of 8 kids. She had the harder job. She stayed at home and raised us and made sure that we had our brown bag lunch when we walked out the door to go to school. It was quite an operation in the morning to send us all, get us all to school on time. But this was not a fancy upbringing in Arlington, but it's pretty basic, but it was a pretty solid one. And these values of service that my parents had, my dad died about 4 years ago, service and community and commitment are values that they passed on to all of us. And it's those values that I put in my lunch bag every day when I get up in the morning to go to work on your behalf in Congress. And it's these values that inform my priorities. And I think I have the right priorities. My first priority is to help improve our local economy and create jobs. That's why I fought hard, side by side with the men and women at Boeing to help land the Air Force tanker, bringing those jobs here to the Pacific Northwest and not somewhere else. Not Europe, not Alabama, but here. And that's meant it will be a $700 million investment in the Northwest, as well as thousands of jobs at the Boeing facility in Everett. But that's not all. We started a district export initiative because we know that we live in a corner of the world, but we're very tied to the world. So we started a district export initiative to identify small and medium-sized manufacturers in our area who are building things, hiring people and building things here and sending those things instead of jobs overseas. And there are companies here in Skagit Valley that benefit from that effort. They're already paying taxes to have these federal resources available to them. They just don't know how to get a hold of those resources. So we're connecting these small and medium-sized manufacturers to these resources they can take advantage of that and get their products into markets overseas.